I believe that I have an understanding of the problems here in this state. I believe as well that a United States Senator is going to vote on matters not only of particular and peculiar importance to Massachusetts, but also to the problems that we face as a nation.
And I ask my opponent, what are your qualifications? You graduated from law school 3 years ago. You've never worked for a living. You have never run or held an elective office.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will introduce myself. I am Teddy Kennedy's brother, and I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm very pleased to come here and accept your nomination. One person I want to make sure that you don't tell, and that's my younger brother.
We'll come to order. We have the agenda before us. The first issue is...
No autographs, just shake his hand.
Martin, would you touch him?
In a driving case, I have to have somebody who saw the accident, who was a witness to the accident, who was a person who saw Senator Kennedy operating this vehicle, who saw Senator Kennedy go off this Dyke Bridge.
There is no truth whatever, to the widely circulated suspicions of immoral conduct that have been leveled at my behavior and hers regarding that evening.
We were walking down the street in Pittsburgh this morning, and an eager woman practically knocked me down to grab Senator Kennedy's hand. She says, "Oh, Senator, we just can't wait until 1976. I want to say, as I was introduced, I am president of the Joseph Kennedy Foundation. My sister Eunice is president of the Special Olympics. I was elected president of the Joseph Kennedy Foundation because my family thought I ought to be president of something."
His coming candidacy seems almost seductive. The Irish charm and self-deprecating humor, the painful evocation of Jack and Bobby, the powerful pull of nostalgia. But there is more to Edward Kennedy than those familiar images, and for the next hour we will report on the quality of his character, his performance as a senator, and his conduct at Chappaquiddick.
More coffee.
Relax, John.
I'm sorry I'm so impatient. My doctor says I drink too much caffeine.
Well, why don't you drink Sankerbrand decaffeinated coffee?
I only like real coffee.
Sankerbrand is real coffee, and tastes it.
It's great coffee.
Hi, John.
Hi.
That must have taken you a long time.
It's easy when you have patience.
And Sankerbrand.
Sankerbrand, the coffee that lets you be your best.
Pete, have I got a plant for you?
But it's all dried out.
Like the pork chops you sold me yesterday.
Bet you fried them. You should use shake and bake coating mix. A fried chop can be dry, but try shake and bake. The golden coating seals in the juices so it's moist and tender, not tough.
Those chops were terrific. Thanks, Pete.
Thanks, shake and bake, for pork chops that are tender, not tough. Try barbecue style, too.
Got a good trip for them. They've all got their sleeping bags. They've got their mosquito repellent. They've got their flashlights. Their flashlights. Their sandwiches.
This is probably the way a mother whose son is running for the presidency would like a documentary about him to begin. A nice walking shot of the two of them as he sets off with her grandchildren on a summer camping trip.
Bag's going. There it is. Can you mark it, Marky?
The picture is appropriate because the scene is the family seat of the Kennedys in America, the compound at Hyannisport, Massachusetts. And because her family, 4 sons, 5 daughters, 27 grandchildren, is the driving force in Edward Kennedy's life. In fact, he refers to it as the family, as though there were no other.
Go to Concord, though.
Not this trip. We're not going to Concord. Did you say goodbye to Gran?
See you, Grandma. I'll be back.
I'll be back. You'll be back. Here's Teddy over there. Say goodbye. See you. Okay.
See you later, Grandma.
Is everybody's going to saddle up? Ethel? Everybody has to saddle up. Here, come around to Mother. Yeah, they're all... Dougie. Dougie! Come on, we get a picture with Grandma.
In recent years, he has become its male head. For this trip, he has become its cruise director, carefully excluding from the picture any non-Kennedy, giving up in frustration when not everyone falls in line.
Chris, well, we can't get everybody. Come on down here. This is our Come on now, do as you... That's all right. Well, Brad, it's all right. He's okay. All right.
Say 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
So far, so good.
But no Kennedy camping trip can ever be just a family camping trip. Not with a driver and an advance man.
Not when the route and the stops are made public. Not when the senator and the children are on almost constant display.
Well, I've indicated what my position is under change now. I've said it many times.
There has been a report that the president has asked you to accept and bid for vice president.
No.
This is the raw material for magazine cover stories. Less than an hour in an amusement park near Springfield gives the press plenty of time to watch and compare notes. But the Kennedys learn young there is a time and a place for privacy. The annual RFK tennis tournament is not one of them. It is a command performance for the Kennedy family and what amounts to their extended family of celebrities and politicians and journalists. It is a command performance for all the Kennedys.
Can we get the bus for the pro celebrity? Yes, sir, right here.
Even for Joan Kennedy, whose appearances with her husband are now so rare, the marriage seems to exist only on select occasions, that the two together not only attract the New York paparazzi, but also New York's plainclothes police. Of course, the risk of a third Kennedy assassination does cast a shadow over the senator's candidacy. The senator himself, talking at his Cape Cod home, is aware of it.
I think anyone who had at least experienced the kind of past that I have would be quite foolish not to be mindful of the dangers. I'd made a decision to remain in public life. I care very deeply about the things that I believe in, but I don't have a false sense of danger I have a realistic assessment of it. I think and I'm not obsessed by it. I think if I was, I wouldn't be able to kind of perform in the area of public life. So.
You mean you're not jumpy about?
It's not a question of being jumpy or not jumpy. It's just the question about how you view the dangers, I suppose. And I'm realistic about them, but not overwhelmed by them.
Someone said that when you, Senator Kennedy, talk about performing a great public service, and this is not a Republican talking, but they say that the greatest public service you could perform would be not to run, so that you would save the country this trauma again. Well,
I appreciate the concerns of people for my safety, and I don't think that there's probably any group or any people that have more of an interest in that than the members of my family, clearly. And but I think one does what one feels that one must do, and out of the basis of deep views and deep concerns.
Over the years, Senator, how fair do you think the American press has been to you and your family?
Well, I think it's been fair enough. I think there have been obviously stories that you may wish that they hadn't been written or hadn't been reported as such, but I think I've always felt that they've been reasonable and fair to myself and to the family.
What sort of separatism should the press maintain between your public life and your private life, or any public official? Should there be?
Well, I think there's a natural inquisitiveness of people about all aspects of people's lives. I mean, I sort of understand that.
What's the present state of your marriage, Senator?
Well, I think that it's we've had some difficult times, but I think we've been able to make some very good progress, and I would say that I'm delighted that we're able to share the time and the relationship that we do share.
Are you separated, or are you just how do you describe the situation?
Well, I don't know whether there's a single word that should have for a description of it. Joan's involved in a continuing program to deal with the problems of alcoholism, and she's doing magnificently well, and I'm immensely proud of the fact that she's faced up to it and made the progress that she's made, and that process continues, and that it's the type of disease that one has to continue to work on, and she continues to work on it. The program that's been devised is in Boston.
Is there a prospect that she will soon resume her life with you in Washington?
Well, we'll have the most important is for her full and complete recovery, and she's made enormous strides and doing exceedingly well, and I think she's taking, and we're taking it sort of day by day or week by week.
Senator, when you gave your televised speech after Chappaquiddick, you mentioned thinking that there was some awful curse that was hanging over the Kennedy family. Do you still think about that?
Well, I don't think so anymore. I mean, there were a set series of circumstances which happened in fairly rapid sequence at that time, which I think probably helped me to reach that observation. In the period of the last 10 years, I think life has been much more probably normal by general standards, and it's been able to reach a sense of perspective of life on it, which I wouldn't say that viewpoint is mine any longer.
If you love great cheese flavor...
Say cheese.
Cheese! It's time you tried the snack that's famous for it. Nacho cheese flavored Doritos brand tortilla chips. So for a snack with the great flavor of cheese, try nacho cheese Doritos. They taste as good as they crunch.
This is Cadillac 1980. With more headroom front and rear than last year. With beautiful advanced aerodynamic styling. And wait until you experience that Cadillac ride for 80. You can even order your Cadillac with diesel power. See all the ways Cadillac made America's favorite luxury car even better for 1980. At your Cadillac dealers now.
This country may be in danger. We could be losing something we can't afford to lose. Once in this country, when a man produced a product, it was the best he could possibly make. He stood behind it with pride. He lived a simple idea. Do it right, or don't do it at all. Nobody told him that. No government agency dictated it. And it built a standard of living for the world to aim at. Now that that idea is threatened by the slipshod, the second rate. To some, it means quick riches. To some, it means quick death of the standards we have built. Some are fighting this threat. Whirlpool Corporation believes in one simple idea: to continue to design, build, and service home appliances the right way, with pride, so you can live with them comfortably for years. Or they will not build them at all. If we can't keep this simple idea alive, then indeed we are the endangered species.
The mystery of what happened at Chappaquiddick 10 years ago still hangs over Martha's Vineyard like a summer ground fog and still is impenetrable. By his own account, Kennedy had come to Martha's Vineyard on July 18th, 1969, to race in the Edgartown Regatta and to host a cookout for half a dozen young women who had worked for his late brother, Robert. The cookout would be on Chappaquiddick Island, separated from Edgartown by 500 feet of water and a brief ferry ride. It would be that night, after the regatta, in a small cottage a couple of miles from the ferry, which Kennedy's political aides had rented and stocked with food and drink. It was 11:15, everyone later agreed, when Kennedy left the party, feeling tired, he said, and wanting to catch the last ferry back to Edgartown to his motel. He rarely drove himself, but this time he got the keys from his chauffeur and started off down Chappaquiddick's paved main road toward the ferry. With him was 28-year-old Mary Jo Kopechne, who had complained that she wasn't feeling well and had asked Kennedy for a ride to her motel. The senator had been over these roads several times that afternoon, but his chauffeur had been driving, and he said he hadn't paid much attention. Kennedy said he had had portions of several beers during the day and had 2 rum and cokes before dinner. Later, he swore that he was absolutely sober.
After a minute or two of driving, the reflector sign, the yellow line, and the hard surface of the road all indicated that the main street to the ferry bore sharply to the left. But Kennedy turned sharply to the right. He said he was unfamiliar with the roads. He turned sharply to the right onto an unpaved, bumpy road leading to the Dyke Bridge. Kennedy later testified he became generally aware that the road was unpaved, but he kept going. At about 20 miles an hour, he estimated. He kept going for approximately half a mile until he hit the Dyke Bridge. Only then, he said, did he realize he had taken the wrong road, and it was too late.
Senator Kennedy did not report the accident or the drowning of Mary Jo Kopechne until the next day, 10 hours later. Conduct which he said was irrational, inexcusable, inexplicable, and indefensible. In addition, the judge who presided at the inquest thought Kennedy was not telling the truth, that he had meant to turn right toward this bridge. Because he chose to drive himself and did not use his chauffeur, said the judge, because Mary Jo Kopechne told no one she was leaving, and because she brought with her neither her motel key nor her purse, Judge James Boyle said that Kennedy and Mary Jo were not heading toward the Edgartown ferry, and that Kennedy was driving the car so negligently that there was probable cause to believe him guilty of criminal conduct. So we are left with 2 questions 10 years later. Is Kennedy's account truthful? And why did the Martha's Vineyard authorities fail to prosecute their famous senator for anything more than leaving the scene of an accident?
Kennedy himself is probably reconciled to having Chappaquiddick with him always. But no matter which questions are asked of him, he still does not seem at ease with the answers. And he still talks about Chappaquiddick in a rather bloodless third-person way, referring to his own conduct that night, for instance, as the conduct.
Well, I expect I'll be asked about the incident during the course of the campaign, and I'd be prepared to respond to any of the questions, as I have been over the period of the time that I've been in public life. I mean, I respond to any particular questions that you'd have.
But you don't think because of your rapidly changing position as a national leader rather than as a senator from Massachusetts, that you on your own ought to say something more to illuminate in people's minds what indeed went on that night, other than saying it's all in the record?
Well, I'll answer any question that you have, or that you have right now.
Yeah.
I'll answer any question that you want to ask me, and I'll answer any question that is asked me during the course of a campaign.
Well, what happens, Senator, if some heckler stands up at a rally, a Kennedy rally, and says, you know, in the loud voice, red-faced, he's angry at you, and he says, Kennedy, you know, you were drinking, you lied, and you covered up. What are you going to tell him in a situation like that?
Well,
I mean, that's the way those questions will come at you, I would think.
Sure. As I say, I'll answer any of the questions that do come up during the course of a campaign, whether if it's a particular heckler on X, Y, or Z issue. But I will answer the questions, and if you have questions right now, you ask them to me, because I'll answer them. I've answered them in the past. I've answered them completely, honestly, and to the best of my ability. And I'm glad to answer any question that you have right now on any of the aspects of it.
One of the most perplexing problems for anybody who goes back and reads the inquest record and sees the map and the layout and the time and all that, the toughest question for me and for a lot of people is, how was it that you took that right-hand turn when all signs led you to the left, the surface of the road led you to the left? How was it you could possibly have turned right?
Well, first of all, it isn't as described as all the signs led to the a different way. I was on my way back to what I thought would be the ferry and back to Edgartown. And the difference between paved and unpaved for any one that lives on Cape Cod or visits the island, the roads are indistinguishable in most parts of the islands, and many of the areas are still the areas of Cape Cod.
But that unpaved road is like a washboard, Senator.
Oh, if you've traveled either on Cape Cod or in the islands of Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket, you go from paved to unpaved, really without interruption on that.
You were not aware, you did not figure that the main road
was the first day that I'd been on that island, in terms of I've been on the beach part of the island over the period of various sailing races, but that was the day that I had been on the island itself.
But you'd been across that road twice that day to swim, had you not?
I'd been driven at that particular time. I was not driving during those particular occurrences. And maybe I should have recognized the difference of it. Probably I should have, but I didn't.
And you continued to believe, even though that road is rough and unpaved, you continued to believe until you saw the bridge that you were indeed on your way to the ferry?
Exactly. It's exactly right.
When you came back to the cottage after your car had left the bridge and you got Mr. Markham and Mr. Gargan to go with you, you noticed that the time was approximately 12:20, 12:15, because of the clock in the Valiant in which you were riding. It later turned out there was no clock in the Valiant. How do you explain that?
Well, it later turned out that one of them, Mr. Markham, had a watch on. Whether it was made that determination from what I thought was a clock in the car or looking at his wrist. I was very conscious of time at that moment, because I knew time was ticking by. I knew that every minute that passed in that was a greater sense of danger, even though, you know, I sensed internally that it would be difficult to expect that you'd have a sense of rescue. But I knew that moments were important. And whether it was from a watch that was on Mr. Markham, or whether it was from a clock, which I thought did exist in the car, I couldn't tell. I mean, clearly there wasn't a clock in the car. There wasn't a clock in the car.
Yeah. Do you think, Senator, that anybody really will ever fully believe your explanation of the Chappaquiddick?
Well, the problem is from that night, I found the conduct and behavior almost sort of beyond belief myself. I mean, that's why it's been. But I think that's the way it was. That happens to be the way it was. Now, I find it, as I've stated, that I found that the conduct that in that evening and as a result of the impact of the accident and the sense of loss, the sense of hope, and the sense of tragedy, and the whole set of circumstances that the behavior was inexplicable. So I find that those types of questions, as they apply to that, questions in my own soul as well. But that happens to be the way it was.
You've said that that the physical trauma of that accident bears really no relationship to the pressures that are brought on by decisions of public policy that you were required to make as senator. They're really separate. But what guarantee does a citizen have, or what assurance does a citizen have that in the future you would not again act, as you said, irresponsibly or inexplicably, when your own career came in conflict with the public's right to know?
Well, I didn't make that distinction. I was asked a series of questions where others drew that conclusion. But what I have pointed out is that the circumstances of that particular evening did involve physical trauma, did involve an accident, did involve enormous sense of loss in terms of the life of an individual, and did involve what I've recognized basically is an irresponsible behavior in not reporting the accident earlier. Now, I think that is, I have served in the United States Senate for a position of 17 years. I've taken positions, I've spoken on issues, I've spoken on questions, and there have been other factors which have impacted my life, and people will have to make that judgment.
If your object, Senator, was to tell the truth, as you said you did to the police in that statement on Saturday, and if that was your purpose, to get out the truth, why did you need so many people to come and help you with the television speech? What were all those advisors doing if you're at your home here, if your motive was just to lay out the truth?
Well, the
why'd you need so much help, in other words?
But the accident report was a very just a factual document that on the accident itself. And because of the enormous interest in the whole set of circumstances, it was felt it necessary to give a more elaborate explanation of the circumstances that surrounded that, that occasion. And I felt that my first responsibility had been to the court prior to the time of reporting to the people of Massachusetts.
But still, if all that was needed to explain to the people of Massachusetts what had happened and to present them with the political realities of what had happened, why couldn't you have done that yourself? Why did you need all those people to...
It wasn't, well, the question wasn't just sort of the factual circumstances that, like a traffic accident, you go through a square and you hit a particular fender. There were obviously kind of circumstances to describe what the nature of that particular gathering had been, what the background had been of the people that were involved, and what happened that evening. There was a more fuller elaboration and explanation of the circumstance that evening.
You said once, Senator, that whole experience had caused you to re-examine your own sense of values and how you viewed life, and that it had changed you considerably. How did it change you?
Well, I suppose in the sense of I've been impacted by a number of tragedies in my life. The loss of life of people, members of my family. Those were circumstances which I really didn't have control. I could feel the sense of regret and the sense of sadness and the sense of loss. But this was a circumstance from which I did have a responsibility. And that, in that sense, it was quite different from other life's experience. And so I'm a very different person than prior to that tragedy. The way that I'm a different person, I think, is probably reflected in perhaps the way others see myself. I can know from just my own inner views or inner attitudes or view about sort of life and people and faith in God. I'm a different person, and I know that.
It is now obvious that Kennedy and his advisors plan to volunteer nothing more on Chappaquiddick or make any attempt to clear away the lingering contradictions. So the American voter is left with three choices. One, that Kennedy's account of a tragic accident is believable and is therefore of no political consequence. Two, that Kennedy's account is not believable, but that knowing any other account could have ruined a career which since Chappaquiddick has become substantial makes it an acceptable defect. Three, that Kennedy's account not only is a fabrication, but is also a major flaw that disqualifies him from the presidency.
CBS Reports will continue.
This is one of General Tire's top-of-the-line steel-belted radials, and its heritage goes back a long way. Ever since 1915, motorists have relied on quality General Tires to see our land. They still do, whether it's our glass-belted Jumbo 780, our popular-priced Jet Radial, or our steel-belted radials. Quality, choice, price. General has a tire for you.
Sooner or later, you'll own Generals. Maxwell House is bringing folks together.
Hey, they're here.
Let's hurry, Mommy. Okay.
Presenting a special holiday offer. Great tasting Maxwell House coffee comes in special Currier Knives design canisters and traditional apothecary jars. Perfect for home-baked gifts.
Grandma, Grandpa.
Oh, how lovely. Look for coupons in November 11th newspapers and save on these special gift containers.
Good to the last drop, Maxwell House.
Monday, the White Shadow pits Carver High against the Harlem Globetrotters. Next, Clinger's into big trouble and heavy finance on MASH. Then the big guy runs for office.
Just think 2 words. Toupee.
And gambling fever hits the Trib.
I win whole hog.
On Lou Grant, it's all Monday.
Tomorrow on CBS.
Introducing the 1980 Mercury Marquis.
Feel the Marquis ride.
The Mercury Marquis is not only spacious and comfortable, it has 70% better gas mileage ratings than 1975.
Feel the Marquis ride.
The 1980 Mercury Marquis. Come feel how well it's designed.
Feel the Marquis ride.
Winter Fitness Program, Monday at 5.
Valium and Librium and the other tranquilizers.
He is considered by almost all of his colleagues to be a first-class senator, and he works very hard. His day begins about 7:30 at home with one expert or another briefing him on an upcoming hearing.
This is big money, this thing here. And I think one of the messages that you should deliver straight to people who are watching, because you can reach millions of people, is that if you can't get through the day without taking...
Even on the drive into the Capitol from Virginia, someone is banging in his ear.
Physicians and the public at large are generally unaware of the risks associated with them.
He is starting to shift slightly toward the center, but over the years, his Senate voting record has been among the 2 or 3 most liberal.
We'll come to order. Valium and Librium. For many Americans, these drugs and other minor tranquilizers have brought needed relief and assisted in promising.
His willingness to tackle unconventional or overlooked issues attracts to his office quality staff people. This is Kennedy's advisor on health, Dr. Larry Horowitz. The chief counsel to the Judiciary Committee he heads is Steve Breyer.
We'll come to order. We have the agenda before us. The first issue is the nomination of Ab Mikva for the...
As he moves from one hearing to another, the press seems to move with him, like camp followers.
Okay. Yeah.
Senator,
hoping for some new favored comment about his candidacy.
What would have to happen for you to make up your mind?
I have no precise time frame or date when I'm going to make any other further comment. I'm trying to give what my position is at the current time. When that position alters or change, I'll respond to those questions.
Did you tell Senator Moynihan that you would know something by November?
The Senator Moynihan and Governor Kerry asked to see me.
Senator, how are you? Hello, gentlemen.
Yeah.
May I ask you a question?
What do you think of the Cuban situation? What do you think your brother, President Kennedy, would have
Well,
done?
I'm not going to speculate. I think his actions spoke very clearly what he did at another time. But the situation is quite different.
One last question. There have been reports that you have been stopping eating ice cream. Is that correct?
And there's not a word of truth to it.
You are eating ice cream.
Whenever I can get my hands on it.
The Kennedy staff, which totals more than 100, is attuned to his moods, his cat and mouse game with the media, his political style, and the value he attaches to senatorial courtesy and gesture.
Senator Hart, returning your call.
Oh, yeah.
5.
Yeah, Gary. Listen, we approved those judges, Colorado. Yeah, so I thought you might like to give them a ring. Yeah, unanimous vote, and I would expect we'd have them up on the floor in the next 2 to 3 days. Okay? Okay. Bye-bye.
26-year-old Rick Burke, not long out of Georgetown University, heads the office staff, and right now is deep in negotiations with the Vatican over the senator's mother getting to meet the Pope.
You know about mother meeting.
Right. At the UN, we could do it.
Well, I don't know what sense it makes at the United Nations.
Well, your mother asked for that.
Well, she doesn't care whether it's the United Nations. I think she'd do it either down here or do it in the... You mean because she's going to be up there during that time?
That's what Pat said in Eunice. That there's a possibility she'd be in New York at that time, and so therefore she'd want to go and listen to him at the UN and then meet him afterwards. So they said down here there's a chance he would do it anywhere in Boston there or down here. And it's just...
Well, let's get precisely the dates of where she's going to be.
Okay.
Do I want to call him now?
Well, you want to ask Maderas about the Kennedy Library.
Yeah, really smothered in the...
Between dashes to the Senate floor, Burke almost trots alongside.
Friday evening, I'm going to be in Boston.
Yeah, Friday evening.
Pumping out information, trying to elicit a yes or a no or some indication on which way Kennedy wants to go on a speech, a trip, a dinner, the JFK Library dedication.
So, how much time we got? We haven't got much time.
Senator Kennedy's office, can you hold a moment, please? Senator Kennedy's office, can you hold a moment, please? Senator Kennedy's office, can you hold a moment, please?
Requests for a piece of him choked the office phone lines.
Senator Kennedy's
Soon after he said he was reassessing his presidential candidacy, the calls jumped from 500 a day to 1,000 a day, as he knew they would.
There's a vote going on right now. What can we do for you, sir?
Well, it's kind of crazy around here at the moment, but I think... It's over on the Senate floor right now.
And the ravenous press gets moved in and out as if they were in a doctor's waiting room.
Well, you want to set up, or what have we got?
Yes, sir. Take about 5 minutes, sir. Andy Hiller, WBZ.
Yeah. Well, Bob, come on back here. Well, I thought we were just going to do a stand-up thing.
Maxine Waters, the Assemblywoman from California. Maxine Waters, Assemblywoman from California, is going to be in town on Friday with...
Maxine Waters, I've never heard of.
You've never heard of her. You're right.
From where?
California.
Yeah.
Is in town for the Black Caucus dinner.
Right.
And she has been particularly friendly to the staff and very helpful.
Yeah.
And would like to bring by some of her delegation.
Why doesn't she touch base with you later on in the week?
Okay.
We'll see where we got paid.
Okay.
But somehow, in their upbeat, half-spoken, semi-chaotic way, Kennedy and his staff juggle all the requests.
I do have a couple things that I can bring in. Let me get ready.
You want to get Marky now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kennedy loves to know and use first names, even though he has to be reminded of Boston Congressman Markey's.
Congressman, can you hold for the senator?
Oh, Ed. How are you? On this energy bill, I thought we'd get maybe if Bob Eckhart and you and maybe we could get Henry Royce and, 2 or 3 Republicans to put this in. I think it'll be a great team, and that would really, I think, give us the kind of impetus over there that would make some difference. Well, I don't know whether I could be as convincing with them as you are, Ed. I'll tell you that.
His weakness may be that he is spread too thin. He does not automatically command a large block of votes as, say, Russell Long would. His power seems to come from beyond the Senate. Also, he may be thought of as a captive of his bushy-tailed staff, and he may be overly programmed.
All right. Listen, I'd like to get out of here. I will read this. I will read this all tonight. It's all in here. You put it at the top of the briefcase. Must-do file. Good. Is this on the must-do file?
Yeah, we'll go on the must-do.
Have one of them meet me at the CIA's.
But there always seems to be one more event on the schedule. A drop-in, a fundraiser, a testimonial that automatically will be declared successful because of his momentary presence.
Nice to see you. How are you? Very good to see you. Very, very nice to see you. How are you? Very nice to see you.
Sometimes they are a chore, and these he moves through with what sounds like a tape-recorded greeting.
It's 1922. It's a long, heart-rendering situation.
Shaking hands with people he doesn't know or perhaps doesn't like.
I'm sorry I can't stay, but you're really good.
I did a whole routine on you up at Chateau de Ville.
Did you? Were you nice to me?
Yeah, you know it, because I did a whole
Bishop
thing.
Hannon.
Sometime when I get
Take one more. Here.
Yeah, please, get in here.
Get in.
They got the whole team here. I've never seen it.
McCarthy, you can't get in
Looks
here.
like the second team of the Rams or something.
But some of them are really fun, like this labor meeting in Boston, where he is at home with working people who have loved the Kennedy family for a generation.
Now, my friends, there are those voices in this country today that would have us believe that we cannot come to grips with the leading problems that we're facing in our nation today. That somehow the problems of inflation and somehow the problems of recession are too difficult, too complex for those of us in this nation of ours to come to grips with. Well, I don't believe that to be the case.
On the stump, Kennedy can be dominating, imposing, and masterful. But off the stump, in personal interviews, he can become stilted, elliptical, and at times appear as if he really doesn't want America to get to know him. Why do you want to be president?
Well, I'm... were I to make the announcement and to run, the reasons that I would run is because I have a great belief in this country that there's more natural resources than any nation of the world, as the greatest educated population in the world, the greatest technology of any country in the world, the greatest capacity for innovation in the world, and the greatest political system in the world. And yet I see at the current time that most of the industrial nations of the world are exceeding us in terms of productivity, are doing better than us in terms of meeting the problems of inflation, that they're dealing with their problems of energy and their problems of unemployment. And it just seems to me that this nation can cope and deal with its problems in a way that it has in the past. We're facing complex issues and problems in this nation at this time, but we have faced similar challenges at other times. And the energies and the resourcefulness of this nation, I think, should be focused on these problems in a way that brings a sense of restoration in this country by its people in dealing with the problems that we face, primarily the issues on the economy, the problems of inflation, and the problems of energy. And I would basically feel that that it's imperative for this country to either move forward, that it can't stand still, or otherwise it moves backward.
What would you do different from Carter?
Well, in which particular areas?
Well, just take the question of leadership.
Well, it's you know, you have to come to grips with the different issues that we're facing. I mean, we'd have to deal with each of the various
questions that we're talking about, whether it's in the questions of the economy, whether it's in the areas of energy.
Well, I've searched the record as carefully as I can, and I noticed differences. There's sharp differences on national health and arms sales to the Middle East, decontrol of oil and gas prices. But really, to get from you to Carter doesn't take a huge leap. For a voter, why would he go from Carter to Kennedy?
Well, you'd have to take the particular issues. I mean, if you want to. I mean, take on the issue of energy and take the problems of inflation. Effectively, the decontrolling of crude oil prices has added anywhere from 3 to 4%, or 3 to 4 points on the inflation rate, let alone what it has done in a multiplier effect on the inflation rate. That was an executive action. That was an executive action. The eliminations of controls on home heating oil is going to mean that the people in the colder climates as well as in the warmer climates are going to pay additional costs. That had an impact on the inflation rate. I would have specifically opposed the decontrol. Certainly at this time, I think it's one thing for OPEC countries to control the price of oil in the international market. But I find it unacceptable that the OPEC countries are going to control the price of oil here in the United States. And that has had a major impact on the rates of inflation, which are the #1 issues before the American people. That's a specific example.
If you were to be judged as a new and stronger leader, then why is it that the 3 issues that you're so deeply committed to on Capitol Hill in the Senate, the national health insurance, closing tax loopholes, and the decontrol of oil prices, have really gotten nowhere?
Well, I think in some of these areas in health that we've made progress. Some of the areas we've been unable to make progress. If you take a health insurance proposal, Harry Truman suggested it. Medicare in 1948. We passed it in 1964 in the United States Senate. Took a good deal of time for the country to understand the nature of that particular proposal. It takes time.
But don't you think that's going to be an issue that'll turn around your campaign, is how effective a leader you were on Capitol Hill? Won't they come at you and say, well, you haven't had a vote yet on national health insurance, Senator? What kind of leader are you?
Well,
you can't even get it out of subcommittee.
Of course, it wasn't even referred to our committee until the national health insurance proposal, even though it has been debated and discussed. For example, the administration's own proposal was only introduced within the last very few weeks, after 2.5 years of this administration. I had felt that we would have a president that would stand for that particular proposal. We have had administrations that have opposed national health insurance. I think without having a president that feels strongly about ensuring that we are going to have a health system which is going to be a decent quality health care at a price people can afford, that we'll have a very, very difficult time in overcoming the power of the various interest groups.
Senator, can you tell me how you differ from your brothers, John and Robert?
I'm probably the least able to make that comparison. I think it's really best left to others.
I know one characteristic you share with Robert is that you don't like to talk about yourself. He never wanted to indulge in self-analysis, or he called them couch questions.
Yeah. Well, that was true about my brother Jack as well. Was it? President Kennedy, yes.
What is it about a so-called couch question that makes you feel uncomfortable? Is it, do you not like to talk about yourself in public? Is it unmanly, or what? I'm asking you for a serious answer.
Well, I don't, I mean, I think it's really left to others. I don't, I suppose I just don't like to talk about myself, just generally. I'd rather talk why I'm in public life is because of my care and concern about using the whatever influence or that I have to move the process towards meeting the goals, which I care very deeply about. I think that's what's important. I suppose the rest of it is just a natural indication, natural reflection of one's desire to maintain as much privacy as one can, which is a fairly natural phenomenon, I would imagine, in people.
But I could go to 98 senators with a camera and set up for an interview, and 97 of them would start every sentence, I. It is a characteristic of politicians that they like to talk about themselves. And my question is, why aren't you that way?
Why don't you ask them about why they like to talk about themselves?
But I mean, you are an exception to that rule. There's an enormous amount of vanity in the Senate and the Congress, and you're always promoting yourself, generally speaking. And my question is, why can't I break through and get you to talk about yourself in an intimate way?
Well, I don't really have much more to add to the earlier answer.
Well, let me try to break through once more. What are you going to do, Senator, during the campaign with the published reports that link you to other women other than your wife? How do you deal with that issue?
Well, in what respect? I mean, well, I don't have a. I mean, I'm married. I've care very deeply about my wife and my children, and we have a rather special set of circumstances, which is perhaps somewhat unique, but we're. I think we're making very substantial progress. Jones would help and assist, and it's been, I think, an enormous both love for her and for my family. So I don't think I'd respond to scurrilous kind of gossip, but I don't know what else you'd expect.
Are you basically optimistic about the future of this country?
Yes. I would say that I'm hopeful about the future and basically optimistic about it.
And that requires, in your opinion, a change in leadership?
I think it, in the direction, I think it requires a change in direction.
Well, that means you, doesn't it?
Well, were I to be a candidate, that's what I would try and offer.
Seven years ago, Honda brought the first Civic to America. Every year, we made it a little better, until now. Introducing the new 1980 Honda Civic. We did it all over again. We added 20% more window area for better visibility, 13% more interior space for comfort, enlarged the hatch, improved the suspension without adding an inch to the overall length. Remarkable.
Honda, we make it simple.
A denture cleanser can clean those stains? I don't believe it.
Polident's new penetrating formula can. It's really improved.
Well, how improved can it be?
Watch. We baked 4 food stains onto this half of new denture material.
Hey, that is tough.
So is new improved Polident. Its penetrating formula cleans even tough stains better than ever. Okay, which side was stained?
I can't tell. Unbelievable.
Even in between.
Try new Polident. Improved to clean stains better.
When you want to tell someone something very important, and the message isn't getting through, maybe there's a better way to say it. Your FTD florist has a wide selection of special FTD bouquets, each one designed to say just the right thing in just the right way. After all, we've been helping people say it right since 1910.
Helping you say it right.
Getting ready, make it shine, looking pretty. There's a lot to do. You're waiting for your dreams to come true. Come on, come on, come on and have a Pepsi day. Come on, come on, come on and taste the Pepsi way. Come on, have a Pepsi day. You're the Pepsi generation. Pepsi day.
Edward Kennedy is the last hope for those who believe in Camelot. He is, for them, the reincarnation of John and of Robert. He is the last son of a great political matriarch. He is the keeper of the family flame. So he is not, despite what he professes, truly his own man. He is too many things to too many people to be that. He can say or do very little without first considering the family. He has been forced, in a sense, to surrender his independence to the family, so that he cannot act as he would wish, but as he must because of history and tradition and propriety. Indeed, if his name had been Edward Moore, he might have behaved differently after Chappaquiddick.
So the major question for the American voter in 1980 will be deciding what part of Kennedy's strength is his own and what part is mystique. For it will not be precisely a 47-year-old white male named Edward M. Kennedy they will be getting. Answering that question will involve, for many Americans, a very complicated and emotional journey through 1980. For CBS Reports, I'm Roger Mudd.
Each weeknight, join television's most honored anchorman on the CBS Evening News with Walter Cronkite. And Monday on Lou Grant, gambling takes an unusual toll at the Trib. Ed Asner stars as Lou Grant, Monday night at 10, 9 Central and Mountain.